Is back into it in Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes! Yes!
The center back, Jacob Glesnes,
He's going for it.
Yes! Oh my goal! What a goal!
And that will do it. One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union. And they go into the Gold Cup break, winning it 3-2.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and it is that time again. Midweek preview of another Philadelphia Union game. This Saturday, the Philadelphia Union take on Montreal, 3 p.m. at Subaru Park. And we haven't done this in a while, so you guys that are live right now on Twitter Spaces, thank you guys for joining. And for people that are listening to this podcast after we're done recording, we're on Twitter Spaces, as I told you guys the last couple episodes. And feel free, people that are in here, just raise that hand if you guys are on the phone. If you guys want to get your thoughts in to talk about, the Philadelphia Union, how they've played through 6 games so far. If you guys want to talk about this upcoming game on Saturday against Montreal, feel free to leave your thoughts, interact. It's always fun, quite enjoyable doing these Twitter Spaces. First one of the 2022 season. And I am joined by Ed Fagan, who has been on the podcast multiple times. Ed, how you doing?
Pretty good. A little mixed feelings after MLS weird apologies about the refs, even though somebody probably could have told somebody to challenge it or VAR it. But we move on. We got Montreal this weekend. I think we can beat Montreal. They just got to put it back together, get the defense on the same page. I think it's a win. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, Jim Curtin said today in his press conference that, we got an apology from the MLS office, but he's like, I guess we accept it. What do you expect us to do with it, right? It's like, your refs blew the call on the field against Toronto. Kai Wagner's lucky that he didn't get injured, because those type of challenges, we've seen in the past, players miss the rest of the season because of those reckless challenges. And so thank God Kai Wagner lifted his leg, got it out of the way, because he could have been gone for the rest of the season. And I know on Union Twitter, I've talked about it multiple times on the podcast how, Kai Wagner, we all expect him to be gone in the summertime because, he's been linked to moves the last couple of years to teams in England, to teams in Germany, to La Liga I've seen. So I don't know. He's got off to a flying start, and I fully expect Kai Wagner to leave. Even if the Philadelphia Union continue the run that they've been on so far this season, there's a guy who the Union said, look, when an offer comes, we're going to accept it for you. We're going to do what's right for you because we know you want to play in Europe. And Jim Curtin said a couple of weeks ago in his press conference, he wants that from his players. He wants them to want to play at the highest levels in their career. And he's not going to stop a player from going to Europe if that's the ultimate goal. And I don't think fans should fault Kai Wagner. But again, thank goodness he didn't get hurt, right?
Yeah, and it's like, of all the people that you don't want to see a challenge like that on, it's him. And he still, has an almost goal if everybody's not offside. He's just an amazing player. And he's probably going to move on from the Union. But while he's here, I would hope that the league would protect him a little bit better than they did last week. But, he's got until the next transfer window. I think he's still going to play. I think he's okay. He's going to ball out like he always does. So I'm not too worried about him. Yeah,
for sure. And that game, I mean, nobody likes to see the Union lose. And, a loss was going to come, right? We couldn't expect the Philadelphia Union to go undefeated the rest of the season. I mean, they're still first in the Eastern Conference. They're second in the Supporters Shield standings with LAFC in first place there. But I don't think anybody saw this run coming from the Union to start the 2022 season. At least I didn't. What about you, Ed?
I mean, I thought they'd come in with a chip on their shoulder after the NYFC game, and that mixed with the Union typically not starting fast, you kind of didn't know what you were going to get. But I knew that it's still the same core of guys. It's still Curtin. It's still Ernst. They didn't get worse in the offseason. So with that sort of chip on their shoulder thing, I thought they might go on a run, or they might I thought they might go undefeated with maybe more draws than the amount of wins that they've had. But they've they've come out, they've played, except for Toronto, really, they've played like amazing defense. They could get a few more goals here and there, but that's kind of a work in progress. But yeah, you have to be happy about the run that they're on. Even with a loss in a game like that, they come home and I think they can put it together again.
Yeah, absolutely. Where they're always red hot in Subaru Park, and 11 goals scored so far this season. Overall, 4 goals against for the Union. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better start. 16 points, and you come home. You talk about, okay, well, what better place to start a new run than at Subaru Park? And I know that May schedule's extremely brutal for the Union, but let's focus on one game at a time. And as we're recording this, I see just more people joining the Twitter Spaces. So feel free, like I said, if you guys want to chime in, have thoughts on the Union season so far, you guys want to talk about the Montreal game, feel free to raise that hand function, and I'll get you in here to speak. Ricky Zelfro is joining us here. And Ricky, how you doing?
I'm doing the best I can, Todd. You know how it is. I'm live on location, so if I sound terrible or you hear a lot of noise in the background, let me know.
Nah, you sound good. And yeah, both of you guys, have been frequent participators for the podcast. Haven't had you guys on the pod at all this season. And like I said in the intro, this is the first time we've done the Twitter Spaces this season. And good to have you both here. But what are your thoughts on the Union's 2022 season so far?
I think, like Todd said, when a team goes through something like they did last season, where like, oh, you have a great chance, you have this opportunity, and then usually it's like you get to the game and you play terribly, or you get to the game and player gets hurt and all of a sudden everything's changed. The Union weren't even able to play that game, and like Jim talked about it, where it was the sort of thing like, technically speaking, all of these players were healthy. It wasn't like they were like all in the hospital with terrible COVID, complications, and the league was like, okay, these are like highly transmissible players. Like, for the most part, our team, as we learned last year, is mostly vaccinated. We're not 100% sure on that, but I guess now we are, because everybody has played in Canada, so now we know, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But for the most part, you have to know coming into the season with 95% of your team being back, and then the only starter that you lost is a player that you've already replaced in Jamiro Montero. And it sounded like for the last 4 or 5 months of his, time in Philadelphia, it wasn't the most consistently good relationship between him and the team, him and the other players. Whereas you've noticed with this team, if you notice the guys that were out for that playoff game, they've all gotten to be bigger than just teammates. They hang out together. They go places together. Let's go with that. And it's all those guys that, were out for that game have been in Philadelphia for 3-4 seasons now, except for Glesnes. But obviously he's a key part of this team. And then you go through that, and now the guys are like, well, we've had that opportunity taken from us, whether or not it's a fair take or a not fair take, take that whatever way you will. I felt like coming into this season that this team was going to have a great shot at being competitive. And the way the schedule worked out to start off the season, you get 2 teams you're on the road at 2 teams that have other competitions going on. That's always helpful. You're playing some less than stellar teams at home, so you have an opportunity to get, as many points as you can to start off, which is, if you look at past seasons, we'd play New York to start the season. Last year we were playing Miami when we were in another competition. So we've got our eyes on something else. So a team like that can come in and beat us. If a team like Miami can come in and beat a team like Philadelphia last year, then a team like us can go to Montreal, who is a worse team than us objectively, and get 3 points. And I think coming into the season, it felt like a great opportunity. And it feels like with teams that like go through those things that they can turn around and do good things. And so far we've done that. And I think outside of, I think getting in your own head a little bit for that game in Toronto where a few calls don't go your way and like a big call doesn't go your way, the game can be over for a lot of teams, especially when you're on the road. If you win that game, that's extra points. So getting frustrated about it kind of sucks. Yeah, and we're all different levels of upset about it. But in the grand scheme of things, us and LAFC are still on a very good pace for the season. And looking at our schedule, you still have a lot of opportunities to get good points. Now, like, schedule congestion could be a problem. You have 2 big road trips coming up at the beginning of next month. And then you have an Open Cup game where I would gather that both teams are playing a B team or a A- team at best in that competition, just because both teams are going to be coming off short rest. The Union just have a further trip to go about it. And honestly, if you're looking at depth, we're probably top 3 or 4 depth-wise. You know, we always complain about, oh, Jack McGlynn's not playing, Quinn Sullivan's not playing, Paxton gets like 2 minutes at the end of every game, right? But honestly, that could be a good thing going into those games where it's like, oh, now we've got 2 weeks in a row. We play Tuesday against Orlando, and then the next Wednesday we have a game at home against Miami. We play Saturday, Wednesday, or something like that. That'll be a good opportunity for all those kids to get good minutes, and that'll be a good opportunity in that Open Cup game to be like, hey, you guys haven't had as much opportunity as you did at the end of last season, but we're going to start 6, 7 of you guys because we just played a potentially supporter shield style game in LA. So on Tuesday night, we're going to play Jack McGlynn and Paxton and all these other players. And then if the game's close or if we're down by 1 at the end of the game, you go, hey, let's go throw in Gazdag, let's throw in these other guys. So I think it works out for us just because we have the depth. Whereas when we used to go deep in Open Cups, we didn't have the depth and it was our main competition. And we were hopeful that we'd make playoffs. Now we're like, we're going to make playoffs. Let's just do what we can do in the other competitions.
Yeah, for sure. And you look at it. So the U.S. Open Cup game is set for May 10th against Orlando City. So we're going to be coming from L.A. and Orlando City. They're going to be coming back from Montreal. So it's, I guess if you're looking at it, it's not. I mean, it's a terrible result for the Union, right? This is the team that you didn't want to play. You didn't want to play down in Orlando. But it's not like, okay, well, Orlando City is going to be at home already where they're going to be able to rest and everything compared to what the Union are going to do coming all the way from L.A. And, I mean, just the whole schedule for May is going to be so brutal for the Union. And that's why early on I wanted the Union to pick up as many points as they could for the season because, I mean, you look at the teams that they play in May, they go to Nashville for their stadium opener on May 1st. Then they go to LAFC May 7th. Then they have that Open Cup game, which we all knew the Open Cup was coming, but it was a matter of, okay, well, when's this going to happen? Because we all knew, okay, well, the Union are going to get into the 4th round, and it just sucks that the Union have to go from Nashville, LAFC, to Orlando. And then they come back home May 14th against New York Red Bulls, and then they're home again 4 days later, play Inter Miami, and then they are on the road for the last 2 days in May at Portland and then at New England. So, I mean, yeah, those home games, the Union have to win against Inter Miami. They have to win against New York Red Bulls. And, yeah, I'm with you. I mean, playing an A- team and a B team against Orlando City, I mean, you can definitely see it. But we saw last year against New York City, right, when the Union played a B squad. Let's call it what it is, right? We saw them score first against New York City. They gave it to New York City. And just a couple of defensive mistakes cost the Union. And I know we've seen some defensive mistakes already this season. And nobody can fault what this team did against New York City last year. But you feel with, okay, a full year under those players' belts that had to play against New York City, you know, when called upon, you feel like they can do the job against Orlando City because let's face it, they're probably going to be playing. Majority of those players that played against New York City are going to be playing against Orlando City in the U.S. Open Cup. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about the Open Cup, but Ed, I know you're here. What are your thoughts on the Open Cup draw for the Union against Orlando?
I mean, I just don't like that it's not a home game, but it is what it is in this round. I follow the guy on Twitter that's constantly explaining the bracket system and the draws and how the lower teams end up kind of grouping with MLS. And I don't know. I do long for like those old school, empty midweek games where it's against Harrisburg or something. But I don't know if we care this year about the Open Cup. A lot of us kind of miss it, but it's not a home game. I don't know if you play coming off an LH or if you play like Union 2, but they're coming off a game too, so maybe it'll be even that way if they just both play the B team and then we have a shot. But I kind of hope they win and get a home game, but at the same time, it's not the best draw, especially with the schedule. I wouldn't be surprised if they just play the B team and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. Again, like I said earlier, we're live on Twitter Spaces, so people that are joining and everything, feel free to raise that hand button to talk about the Union start already. We're going to go ahead and dive into Montreal, but if people want to dive back around and talk about the Union start to the 2022 season, we can definitely go ahead and look at that. I have a whole bunch of clips from today's press conference with Jim Curtin that I'll play throughout this time here, but look, like I said, we all know that the Union take on Montreal this Saturday at Subaru Park, and these teams, we all know, have already played once this season, where the Union came back and won that game 2-1 with goals from Ali Bedoya and Daniel Gazdag. We saw Julian Kranza get a red card in this game for an iffy call, I'll say. Mikhail Ua made his debut. Nate Harriel made his first start of the season and hasn't looked back on that since getting the start. A lot of great takeaways you can see from the Union from that game against Montreal on the terrible turf, mind you, right? Thank goodness somebody got hurt in that game for the Union, because I think it's totally unacceptable where, I get why the Union played in that stadium, because, you're not going to play outside of Montreal in March, right? The ground's too frozen. So I get why they played indoors and everything. But yeah, that was a horrible playing surface. And I guess it is funny too, where you look, you talked about it earlier, Ricky, where Montreal, they were in a competition when we played them. They were in the CONCACAF Champions League, and watching Montreal play their Champions League game on the same field, it was pretty funny. And then you go ahead and look at CONCACAF saying, New York City can't play at Yankee Stadium because the field's too small or whatever. But then when New York City went down to Guatemala, apparently that field in Guatemala was smaller than the field in Yankee Stadium. And then you look at the field in Montreal, it's like, man, how's that acceptable? And you say, oh, Yankee Stadium, you can't play there. Like, we all get on Yankee Stadium, but like, that field that Montreal had to play on in the CONCACAF Champions League, yeah, that was totally unacceptable. But it is what it is. And again, like I said, we know the Union went in. They took advantage of that short rest that Montreal were on, and Mikhail Ua had a couple chances in this game, even though the Union were down a man. Had 2 breakaways, I feel like it was, and couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. We're still waiting for him to score. Will he score against Montreal this Saturday? We shall see. But I'll go to you, Ed. What are your thoughts from this game against Montreal? What do you remember from this game?
I didn't do much research. I mean, I remember it's just like you said, we went up there, we got kind of not a great effort from Montreal coming off a Champions League game, but it was early in our season. We put a lot of, we left a lot of guts out there. It was a gut, that bad surface, and just to come out with a win was just huge at the time. Now I think the stakes are a little higher. The expectations are a little higher for the Union. You're at home. I think you already had the letdown game a little bit last week, so I think you just kind of stick to what you're doing. I know Montreal is going to be better. They're going to attack better. They've looked better in the last couple games. I don't know the whole lineup for Montreal really right now. You can go through that, but I just feel like this game will be a better representation of the two teams. You're in nice weather on a field with proper dimensions and grass. So I think you're going to see sort of the game that you should have seen before, but in a better conditions. And I think as the Union's attack gels, they won't have to rely so much on the defense. Then I think they attack better at home too. So I could see it being a 2-1, something like that, 3-2. I'd like to get the defense together, but it's not something that's guaranteed to happen. And with Montreal attacking a little bit better lately, I think they're going to have to. They're still going to have to be on top of that. But I think Ua could get off the schneid if he gets another start. Even if he doesn't start, really, he seems to be going through, like, he just needs to get that first goal, that first thing off his back. He just needs to get that out of his head. I think Gazdag had a bit of that early on, and then he just kind of scores at will. But it was a little bumpy at first. I think Ua's he's trying to create a chance for himself. He's trying to get open. He's trying to break out. He's trying to make the run. He's trying to get fouled. And he's pressing. He's doing all the things that you're supposed to do in the system. He just needs to get the ball in the right spot in a goal that he can just put away and not have to bring down a 40-yard pass off his chest down to his feet and beat the defender and beat the goalkeeper and do all that all at once. Hopefully they can get him a better chance than they have leading up to this.
Yeah, absolutely. And you go ahead and look at Montreal's form. Their last 4 games, they're unbeaten, 3 straight wins. They're 2 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses on the road. And they really should have won in Atlanta. They were winning that game, and then they blew the lead and wound up drawing 3-3 down in Atlanta. And you go ahead and look, 10 goals for, 13 goals against on the road for Montreal. They score a ton of goals, but they also give up a lot. And you go ahead and look, 4 of those goals they gave up, I believe, were in New York. So that number is a little bit skewed. But again, 2-game winning streak. And Montreal is definitely coming in here in a lot better form than they were in Montreal, because again, look, we know what the Union did last season in MLS when they were in Champions League, where they kind of prioritized Champions League over MLS. Not saying that they didn't take MLS serious, because we saw them, putting out their best lineups against MLS teams last season. But that fast turnaround from CCL to league, it catches up with you. And we weren't really sure last year what we had on the bench with a whole bunch of young homegrowns. But now this season, like I said earlier, with a full season under their belt, you can rely on these players. And that's something that we weren't really sure about last season. We knew they were good players, but it was like, okay, well, when they're called upon to make a difference, can they make that difference? They're going against some players twice their age. These guys are fresh out of the academy. A lot of these guys are still growing into their body. How can they play against seasoned professionals? And we weren't really sure. And as the season got going, we saw what type of players these guys are. And I know there's probably some fans out there that want to see more of Jack McGlynn, want to see more of Quinn Sullivan. But, nobody can fault the way that the Union are playing, because, look, they're 5-1 this season, 5-1-1. And how do you say, okay, well, Liam Flock, you've helped us get here. Your pressing numbers off the chart, but, maybe you're not offering as much offensively as some fans would like. So we're going to start Jack McGlynn. I don't see how you do it. And look, the U.S. Open Cup, like we talked about earlier, is going to be a great opportunity to get some of these younger players minutes. And hopefully the Union can go far in that competition, because we've seen over the years, the Union go to a couple finals, go to a couple semifinals. So the Union typically do well in the U.S. Open Cup, and I think we'll see a lot of these homegrown players get opportunities down in Orlando. But, Jim Curtin was asked a little bit earlier. I don't know why I said a little bit earlier. He was asked this afternoon about, that run that Montreal's on. Like I said, 4-game unbeaten, and this is what Jim Curtin had to say in regards to the run that Montreal was on. Well, we'll come back. We'll come back to that, because apparently none of my clips saved. So that's a little bit embarrassing. But yeah, Ricky, I think you're back now. So what are your thoughts on just Montreal coming in here compared to how they were playing when they were in CCL?
I think the thing you have to count for, obviously, is that Olympic Stadium is what it is, because it's Montreal in March. What are you going to do in that situation beyond play the game indoors in a stadium like that? And I don't think you had much of a choice in who you played that game, because Euro was...
Ricky, you got to get somewhere better.
Sounds like he's at a basketball game or something, I think.
I thought this was going to be a problem, so let's just skip over me then.
Oh man. All right, Ed. I'll go back to you as I try to sort out these clips. Maybe it's a volleyball game he's at. He was good when he first talked, and then that time it was like, a little bit loud, but this run of 4 straight games unbeaten. Ed, what are your thoughts on that?
It's just like I said before. I think they're a better team than we got up there now. And I think we had kind of a bad week last week, but I think we're a better team too, and we're gelling in the attack. So it's just going to be interesting to make, what to make from their run. To me, is that, and it's like you said, they're gonna score, or at least they're gonna try to attack us, which is kind of what the Union want anyway. We don't want a team to sit back and hold the ball for 60 minutes. We want somebody that tries to attack us so we can attack them. It just always works out better that way. So I kind of want them to come in confident. I kind of want a team that comes in confident and thinks they can get a point off us. And then, all of a sudden you're getting counterattacked and you're up 1-0 5 minutes in, and your game plan's out the window already. That's kind of what I could see happening. That's kind of the way they play. It's kind of the plan, but it doesn't always work out that well either. It could go scoreless to halftime. It could go 2-2 to halftime. We don't really know what we're going to get, but it's definitely going to be like a better representation of these two teams than it was, in the terrible conditions before.
Yeah, for sure. And hopefully I have the right clip here. So we're trying to play it right here. Like I tried to say earlier,
right.
Jim Curtin talking about the run that Montreal's been on.
Yeah, they're a good team. They had some good performances even in the games that they lost towards the beginning of the year. Even the game against us, they had really good stretches and good moments. So I've said it a million times that Champions League, just what that does to your calendar, how busy it makes it, the travel, all the things that go along with it. It makes it hard at the beginning part of the year. But in recent weeks, you've seen them string together 3 wins, and even the result in Atlanta in a wild game. They've really improved. I think Wilfred Nancy is a very good coach, has them organized. We know that it'll be a really tough test when they come to Philadelphia, and they'll be looking to, pay us back for the win that we got on the road in a really close, tight game. So it's going to be a tough game. Jordi Mihalovic continues to play at a really, really high level. Kyoto is a real threat on the break and transitions, and they have a really strong, stable, organized defense. And Wanyama in the center of the field is a real strong ball winner and can pass through the lines and start attacks for them. So overall, dangerous team, really good team, just like week in and week out now. There's no easy games. It's difficult to take points, but we'll be in front of our home fans and know that we'll have them behind us.
Yeah, that's a big key right there, is playing in front of our fans. We know how loud Subaru Park gets. We saw it, throughout the playoffs. And, it's had its moments this year where it's been super loud. And, it's always a tricky thing, right? Where you play these early season games trying to get fans into the game where it's cold out. It looks like we'll finally have decent weather for a soccer game here in late April. Hopefully it stays that way, right? But playing in front of your home fans, we know how loud it gets. And as soon as the Union get the first goal, if you're betting, the Union are probably going to get the second goal, because as soon as they get that first goal, then Montreal is going to come out and actually try to tie the game up. I'm not saying that they're going to park the bus, because I don't expect them to park the bus whatsoever this weekend against the Union. But it's like when the Union get the first goal, they typically get the second goal maybe like 10 minutes after they get the first goal at Subaru Park, just because, they'll find more opportunities to hit teams on the counterattack. And the Union are going to try to transition a lot faster than, they did on the road against Toronto. And I think maybe part of that reason was because of the win in Toronto. I know the Union tried to play long balls, but some of those long balls got knocked down because of the win. And, that's a big part of the Union's game, is playing these long balls with Jack Elliott, with Jacob Glesnes, with Jose Martinez, having those guys those strikers run out to the channels, Sergio Santos, Mikel, Julian, to get onto the ball, and then they're send people crashing into the box, and they're sending crosses. So, yeah, I definitely think the Union are going to come out and attack a lot better than they did against Toronto. And Jim's right. Montreal is going to come in here and they're going to want revenge against the Union, where, they probably feel a little bit hard done losing to the Union in Montreal. They probably felt like they deserved at least a point in that game, but the Union were able to sneak all 3 points in, even though they were down a man. And I just go ahead and look, and I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself looking at stats and everything, but the Union's record at home against Montreal is not great at all. 4 wins, 6 draws, 2 losses. 6 draws is like really, really crazy. The 2 losses were a 4-1 loss and a 3-0 loss. So the Union definitely, have had their problems at home against Montreal. Ed, just what are your thoughts hearing Jim Curtin's comments?
Yeah, I mean, he's always on point. I think that Mihailovic, he said it himself, is a problem. And I don't know all of. I'm not looking at Montreal's roster right now, but like the Union can tend to take the guy from the other team. We tend to do well against when there's one guy or there's a specific guy that they want to go after. And if Curtin's shouting him out in the press conference, Elliott, Martinez, Glesnes, everybody's been instructed and they've been drilling this to basically take him out of the game. And I think that's like a conscious thing that Curtin always does. He wants to take the other team out of its main strategy, which is usually like, if you got a guy scoring, get him the ball. Well, if they try to get him the ball, the Union's going to have 3 guys on him right away. If it works, it works. If it it can backfire if he can find an open man and the Union already committed 3 or 4 guys to this side of the field, that can become a problem. But they don't usually lose their space that badly. So, I think Curtin's going to get the defense dialed in. They're always better at home anyway. But I think they're the key. They're going to try to take out Mihailovic. They're going to try to frustrate. Jose Martinez is going to try to frustrate him. They're going to try to take him off his game. He's the guy right now that everybody's looking at on their team. So I think, that's not an accident that he just brings up their players, but I think they're going to do that. And, it's feast or famine. Either they'll take him out and it'll work, or he'll find somebody else and they'll take advantage of what we're doing. But I think the Union have enough discipline to defend well enough in that situation.
Yeah, for sure. And Jim Curtin talked about Mihailovic a little bit later on, and if time permits, I'll play that clip as well. Anthony, I know you've been here the whole time, so I'll invite you to speak. If you want to speak, great. If not, you don't have to accept that. That's all cool. But yeah, just looking at it, I mean, looking at more stats for Montreal before I play another clip from Jim Curtin here. I mean, it's not just Mihailovic. You look on defense, and I know you said, Ed, you're not looking at their whole roster and everything, which I'm not expecting people to look up that whole roster and everything as we're recording this. But you look at players like Kamara Miller, Rudy Camacho, Joel Wooderman. The 3 center backs have been playing in the back the whole time. They've been playing really, really, really good. I know they've been conceding a lot of goals, but they're allowing a player like Alistair Johnston to play up a little bit higher in the field, where when we played them, he played in that back 3, and now they've been playing him as a wing back a little bit, where he has 2 assists on the right so far this season, playing in that wing back role. Montreal, they're a team that loves to dribble against players. They have the highest successful dribble rate in MLS with 65.6. They have 82 successful dribbles in MLS, which is the 4th most. I mean, and I look at players like Victor Wanyama, who Jim Curtin mentioned in that clip, who's been fantastic for Montreal since he got here. And I know, Ed, you being a Liverpool fan, I'm sure, you probably get, flashbacks of that banger that Wanyama scored with Tottenham at Anfield. Great goal from him. But, yeah, he's been a terrific player for Montreal this season. You look at Kamara Miller.
We're worried about 4 trophies to win right now, so we're not too worried about Wanyama this second.
Oh yeah, of course the Liverpool's not worried about Wanyama since he's in MLS, right? But you look at Kamara Miller, who I said one of the three center backs, 12 out of 15. Coney, 9 for 13, who plays in the middle of the park for them. Lappinlainen, 8 for 12 on dribble. So I mean, they have players that aren't afraid to take players on one-on-one, and the Union definitely got to be aware of that. And I asked Jim Curtin today, well, with Alistair Johnson playing in the back three against you guys, now it looks like ever since that game, they moved him up, like I said, playing as a wing back. How do you prepare for a positional change like that? And Jim Curtin was full of praise for Alistair Johnson and had this to say.
Yeah, look, Wilfred is not afraid to change tactics, to change formations, to change ideas. So now when you watch them and analyze them in the recent weeks, and they've been successful, so we imagine it's something they'll stick with. In their build-up, it almost looks like a back four where they'll shift guys into higher positions, and their wingers will really be up against your back line or wing backs. And then it'll kind of defensively look like a back five. So they have some real fluidity with their group. They have a good understanding of trying to keep the ball. It's no secret whether they're up a goal, down a goal, they try to build off of goal kicks and pass the ball through you. So and they're good at it. So it's up to us to now try to disrupt that. Alistair Johnson is a great player. Obviously, they made a big move for him in the offseason to bring him in. He can play as a center back. He can play as an outside back. He can play as a wing back and get forward and give you problems too. So they have good players all over the field. They have some tactical flexibility within their group. We'll put together a plan to try to make them as uncomfortable as possible with our pressing and see if we can turn them over as close to their goal as possible and see if we can put some balls in the back of the net. But it's a real challenge.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the Union's game plan always, right? Press, 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 and then as soon as you win the ball back, hit them on the transition. And Montreal, for the most part, in Montreal, did a good job to counter that when the Union tried to do that game plan. And great words there from Jim Curtin on Alistair Johnson. He mentioned a player that they acquired on a trade from Nashville during the offseason, who was terrific for Nashville last season, and he's been terrific for the Canadian national team this season. So he's a player I think Union fans should pay attention to this season, playing in a more advanced role. Ricky, I know you messaged and said you have like 2 minutes. Thoughts on that clip from Jim Curtin?
I think Johnston's definitely one of their quality players. I think my biggest focus, obviously, would be Mihailovic, but Johnston adds a lot defensively, I believe. And the other thing I noticed when looking at some of their lineups was that they have Lassie playing the left wing back and Johnston playing the right wing back, I think, which is interesting because historically speaking, I think with Nashville, he was more of a left center back, so you'd think he'd be more of a left wing back. I don't know if he's actually left-footed or not. And the whole thing about that is Johnston has some, positional flexibility, which is good. But, at the same time, I'm not sure he adds, as much in the attack as he does in defense. And I think that I would focus on attacking the other side just because of that fact. And so the thing is, at that point, so we'd have more of an attack with Ariel and Bedoya than Wagner and Flock, which is sort of how it works out anyways, because Flock is the sort of black hole in attack that you'd imagine Johnson would be on the other side. The other thing is, I think we all are aware that Lassi Lappinainen is the problem child when it comes to Montreal versus Philadelphia. He always seems to score, even when it's not like he's doing anything like that last game, where Harry will just kind of awkwardly flick the ball into our net just because that's what he had to do defensively. And I was looking at the last game against Vancouver, not the greatest team to play against. So I don't know if that's a team that we can take much from, in that game. But Montreal is definitely a better team than they were last year, and they were close to the playoffs last year. Jordy's one of those players that I think could be a impactful player, possibly even up for MVP by the end of the season. And I am more willing to attack the other side because it would be Kamal Miller who is, not the most agile person, and Lapinlainen, who is an attacking player, if it comes to that.
Yeah, for sure. And Lapinlainen has 3 goals in 3 matches versus the Union. And the Union's leading goal scorer that's on the current roster is Ali Bedoya with 3 goals in 12 games. Both those guys scored in the last meeting between these two teams. And like I mentioned, the Union's home record against Montreal is 4 wins, 6 draws, 2 losses. So I don't think this game's going to be as easy as maybe some fans are going to make it out to be. But just looking at more stats for Montreal, and you guys know I love looking at stats, 39.2 shots on target percentage for Montreal, which is the 3rd highest in MLS. And then every 0.15 goals per shot. That's tied for 2nd most in MLS. So it's, that's, not every shot obviously goes in for Montreal, but they're up there with, there's only one team in MLS that is better than them at shooting, and that the ball is going in the back of the net. So like we said earlier, and Montreal, there's a team that's going to attack, and we've seen them attack this season, and 2-game winning streak on the road. They're going to come in here and not park the bus, like I said. There's a couple more clips I want to play from Jim Curtin's press conference before we end this, and we talked about it a little bit earlier with strikers getting goals with Ua, how he was unlucky not to score. And I'll ask you after this clip what your best striker pairing is. But Jim Curtin was asked about that today. Obviously, you guys want to play good defense. That's how your team's built, is defense first, attack second. Defense, we all know, wins championships. And Jim was asked, okay, well, how can you continue to play good defense, but also up the amount of goals that you score? And this is what Jim Curtin had to say about that.
Yeah, I think so. But, I would describe us, if I was to talk about our team, I'd say we are a defense first team, no question about it. But that sometimes people think of, Atletico Madrid and putting 10 guys in the box and bunkering in. There can still be beauty in that, what they do. But I think we are a team that, yes, is defense first, but we still have good attacking pieces. You look at the best teams in the world now. Liverpool is an incredible defensive team. Everybody talks about the goals they score, but they do it based off of their defense and their pressing. Even Man City, everybody talks about with the ball, how good they are and how they spread you out and they pass you to death. If you watch how relentless they are on the counter press, which our team, I think, does pretty good too, you can take pieces from all these top teams and sprinkle them in. I think we are a defense first team. But that good defending leads to our attacking chances as well. And we've preached that to our midfielders and our strikers. The harder they work defensively, the more the goals look like they do against Toronto, where we go quickly in transition and Julian ends up with a header from 1 yard out. Those are the goals that you want your strikers to get at the end of the day. So yes, we play good defense, but I think we have the capability to break out and score multiple goals in games. And I think you'll see the offense click more and more as the season goes on. I like the foundation we have. I like the defending, so we won't lose track of that. But I think certainly the connections, the combinations, the talent that we have on our team, I think you have probably 5, maybe even 6 guys that can score double-digit goals. I don't know which ones will do that and achieve that. They'll all get opportunities. But to have that, group of players that can get you double-digit goals is something that is new to us, and I think something that will help us as the schedule gets busier, like we just talked about.
Man, 5 to 6 players score double digits. I mean, you could say Julian Carranza. I guess Jim Curtin's talking about Sergio Santos there, Corey Burke, obviously. Mikel Uhr, obviously, he's talking about all of his strikers getting double digits. Daniel Gazdag, but 6. I don't know who would be 6 if it's not all your strikers Gazdag, and who's the 6th player that's going to score double digit goals for you. Would love to hear Jim Curtin thinks that is.
Wagner.
Kai Wagner, yeah, that would be crazy, right? To see Kai, dude, if Kai Wagner scores double-digit goals, he is 100% gone in the summertime, and you can bet that a team is going to pay crazy money for a left back that can not only assist, play good defense, but score you a ton of goals. Yeah, that would be amazing. But
I mean, that was more of a joke. But he got what did he get? Like 3 or 4 last year. He did all right last year.
Exactly. And look, he had one taken away from him against Toronto. Like this player, Kai Wagner, he's not afraid to shoot from distance. A lot of times we see him actually put it on target, and sometimes the ball goes on the back of the net. He's a good free kick taker. He's a good player to shoot from outside the box, like I just mentioned. So I don't know. I know you're joking and everything, but yeah, wouldn't that be something if Kai Wagner got double-digit goals this season? But like I said before that clip, I was going to ask you, Ed, what player, like, what's your favorite striker combination?
I think before the season started, I would have just said Santos and Ua. I'm just a huge Santos fan, but they kind of do similar stuff. And I really like what I'm seeing out of Carranza. Corey Burke's always very good to have, but I don't know if I start him unless I have to. But really, like, I kind of like what they've been doing so far. I think if it's me, I start Carranza and Ua together, and then I want to bring on Santos for either one of them at like 60 something, depending on if we need a goal or if not, maybe later if we don't need a goal, earlier if we need a goal. But at the same time, I almost want to see every combination. I kind of want to see Santos and Ua get a start together and see what that looks like. If it's just complete chaos, 2 guys running around. But I don't think, I think they all play. All these guys buy into Curtin's system, and they all sort of play within that pressing, like he said about like Liverpool. It starts with the defense, but they the attackers have to defend in the press to make all that work. Liverpool gets help from Trent Alexander-Arnold and Virgil van Dijk with like passing and getting the ball back forward a lot, but it does predicate on like the offensive players pressing hard and staying up the field and getting in the goalkeeper's face and getting in the defender's face. And we've always, we have 4 strikers that all do that. They all buy into this system. It's really just a matter of like hashing out what guys do what better. And I think Carranza is such a complimentary piece. He just seems to get assist after assist. He's a big reason why Gazdag has so many goals already. When he talks about double-digit goals, I think Gazdag's already, leader in the clubhouse. But depending on who starts, who gets injured, right now it's hard to start Santos over Carranza or Ua, but if someone gets hurt and Santos gets a bunch of games, yeah, he can get double-digit goals, and then a guy comes back and then scores more. Like, there's a lot of scenarios that would have to play out for like all of the strikers to get 10 goals, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. We just have to hope everyone stays healthy. We don't need that many people to get a bunch of goals. I'd rather just see the top 3 guys get like 20 goals each, but maybe do that. But it's a good problem to have what they have right now. They have 4 good strikers and a solid attacking mid, and they're all buying in and they're all complementing each other. It's just trying to pick the best every week. And as I watch Liverpool, Klopp rotates that front 3. Mane's played in every spot in the front 3. So, you bring in a Luis Diaz and he's all of a sudden the left winger. So you have to sort of move guys around. And it's kind of like bringing in a guy, I think with Ua, you kind of bring in a guy. Now you have to sort of, okay, who complements him better? Is it Santos? Is it Carranza? And right now I think you start Carranza and Ua, and you have Santos fresh legs that just burn everybody in the second half. I think that would be my strategy.
Yeah, I agree with you, right? I think the striker partnership that I like is the best is Santos and Carranza, just because that's the one that has been together the longest, because we saw down in Orlando, Clearwater, I guess I should say exactly. Those 2 guys started against Cincinnati and they combined for a goal, and we saw them combine for a goal already in the regular season. And, I think there is something to be said about players that have played together the longest. You have these partnerships already built where, Ua, I know was bought a while ago and he couldn't get here because of visa issues and everything. So it took him a while to get into the team and everything. And it is good to see that, the partnership between him and Daniel Gazdag seems to be working out pretty well because Daniel Gazdag set him up a couple times. Ua set Daniel Gazdag up in Montreal and couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. We saw the partnership at home against Columbus with Ua and with Julian Kranza. We saw the partnership with these two guys in Toronto. The more of these guys play together, the better they're going to get. And the one player I think you always got to keep into that starting 11 is Mikhail Ua, because of how much money that you spent to get him here in Philadelphia. So it's about trying those other three guys, see who clicks, who doesn't. But, at the same time, too, Jim Curtin, I feel like, whatever he can do to find the best combination to get the Union all 3 points, to consistently get points, he's going to go with that. And, yeah, I mean, that would be so ballsy for Jim Curtin to say, well, Sergio Santos and Julian Kranza work best together, so we're going to start these two guys and have Mikel come off the bench. I'm sure that probably does happen sometimes this season, but to constantly do that, I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, that's all the clips I want to say for Jim Curtin. I haven't been giving a score prediction yet this season, so I'm not going to say what the score is going to be one way or another. I think it's going to be a close game. And, I do like looking at the series history and everything. And I know both of these teams, Montreal and Philadelphia, have changed so much over the years. But Montreal does leave the series with 9 wins, 8 draws and 8 losses. And like I said, I mean, they've lost 4 times at Subaru Park. They've drawn against Union 6 times and have two losses at Subaru Park. So it's not like, they come into Subaru Park all the time and get blown out of the water. No, it doesn't happen at all. They average 1.5 goals at Subaru Park out of 12 games that they play there. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to see a Montreal team that probably comes in here and scores. And I know Jim Curtin talks about all the time, keeping a clean sheet number 1, starting a clean sheet streak. But yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. As long as the Union can get the first goal in Subaru Park, I think they'll be fine. Because, look, if the Union get the first goal, I think they'll probably get the second goal. And then if Montreal gets a goal, then, I think the Union would be okay. But if Montreal gets the first goal, then that's not going to be great for the Union, because we saw what they had to do when they were playing from behind in Toronto. They had to possess the ball, and they're not built to possess the ball. And so Montreal, they could play a back 3, they can change that into a back 5. They're set a little bit deeper, and then they're trying to hit the Union on the counterattack if Montreal gets the lead in this game. So I think for the Union, you definitely cannot let Montreal get the lead in this game. I think we'll see a lot of attacking. Mihailovic, an excellent player. Hopefully he doesn't hurt the Union. He scored in Montreal against the Union, even though that goal was called back. But nonetheless, I think we're in for an exciting game. And before I let you go, Ed, you've been here for a while, so I'll let you go ahead and plug your social media. I know you're on Twitter Spaces, but for people that are listening to the podcast on wherever they get the podcast, where can people find you?
At Buzzkill Ed, Buzzkill_Ed on Twitter. Before I sign off, shout out to Jeff Mitchell doing a fundraiser for childhood cancer. You have to go to @FatherOfBen, and he posts the link every, I think, 5 minutes. I think he posts the link. So just go to @FatherOfBen, click the link. I think he shaves his head, and there's going to be a jersey giveaway, Gazdag jersey giveaway at the Sons of Ben tailgate this Saturday. So if you're into a Gazdag jersey, go to that. He might even be able to sell raffle tickets if you can't be there. You can message him. And if you can't be there, you can't go to the tailgate, donate to his fundraiser there. It's @FatherOfBen. He posts the link a million times a day, so get that there.
Yeah, for sure. And what Ed's talking about, it's the St. Baldrick's Foundation. You couldn't have said it any better. It's going to be at the Sons of Ben tailgate this Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. As you said, Ed, Jeff will be getting his head shaved like he's done, I think, like the last 9-10 years that St. Baldrick's has been doing this with the Sons of Ben. And he's trying to raise $5,000 for childhood cancer. And Jeff is so close to his goal. Like you said, Ed, he has 2 signed Daniel Gazdag jerseys. One is from his playing time with the Hungarian national team, and the other one's the away jersey with the Union. Both of them signed, and that would be a great jersey for some fans to win. Like you said, they're going to be raffling these off, so it's not going to be the highest bidder wins them. They want everybody to have a chance to win one of these jerseys, and I'm not sure how much the raffle starts at. Like Ed said, look at Father Ben on Twitter. I'll leave a link to everything in the show description, as I always do. And if you're into drinking, Jeff also said that New Ridge Brewing Company is going to debut their Roxborough Gold Beer on tap there. So if you're into that, check that out. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on social media, follow Free Kick Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts, The Free Kick. And it's been a lot of fun being back on Twitter Spaces. Ed, Ricky, both of you guys for participating. Thank you guys so much. I think we had like 6-7 people at most join here. So, not bad for our first time doing Twitter Spaces for the 2022 season. Definitely have to do more of these, get more people involved because, I always want to hear from fans, and not only just Union fans, would love to hear from opposing fans as well, too. Just hear what they think about the Union, what they think about their team. And I think I said it. It's going to be a good game between these two teams. Hopefully the Union are able to score first and they get the first goal. Then the second one will come, in my opinion. But, as always, thank you guys for the support. Listening to the podcast, following the podcast means a lot. And just continue to share the podcast if you guys are enjoying what I'm doing here on the Free Kick Podcast. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.